Welcome, YCT members. I'm excited to have you all engage in our very first Youth Catalyst Team Town Hall. With everything going on regarding COVID-19, I think it is important for us to share our thoughts in the rapidly changing pandemic. Thank you all again for joining us. So let's jump right into it. My name is Sky again. I use Team His pronouns and I'm based in New York. And what I want to speak about, what I'm really excited to talk about is some of the recommendations that will come from this discussion.
Hi, everybody. Glad you could join us. My name is Liam. I'm based here in Philadelphia, and my pronouns are he, him.
Awesome. Thank you. My name is Marielle. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm in Spokane, Washington.
My name is Andre, he, him, his pronoun, and I'm located in Philadelphia.
Hello, everyone. This is Dash. I'm in Anchorage, Alaska. I use she, her pronouns.
I often think about youth and young people and these programs and, what are young people doing, during this crisis? Has shelters in their community, altered their operational hours and program access? How many shelters or beds? How accessible is that information? If a young person that is experiencing homelessness, or if a young person simply does not feel safe at home and wants to be somewhere else that's conducive during this time, where are they going in your community, if you know?
Well, that's a very good question in terms of where youth and young adults are accessing housing or some kind of shelter during this time. Really, even before the pandemic, Philadelphia, we've been trying to implement a youth-specific shelter, which we don't have currently. And so since the pandemic, it's been even more harder to obtain shelter for young people, because a lot of young people report that they don't feel safe in shelters that are mixed ages and groups. It's just a different dynamic. So I know couch surfing has gone up. I also know young people have reported staying in places where they do not feel safe. And unfortunately, mitigating that has been very difficult. I know some programs who do serve young people have altered their hours a little bit to make them accessible as well as virtual. But it's definitely a service that could be increased, I'll say that.
As far as where youth and young adults are going to have their needs met during this time, it's been a very strange experience because our access points have been altered in how they function. They're not exactly closed, but they're not exactly walk-in style as of right now. So things like that you have to be in the know to even actually sort of properly approach. And I think that's the biggest thing. Is I'm a part of the email loop, of course, but what about the people that aren't? And then a lot of things that they have been emailing out have been sort of day ofs or day befores. So it's not exactly the most beneficial every time. I think the stream of presentation and outreach that there is currently being used, whatever models and however they're going about planning these things, it definitely works. It's definitely a good practice. But I feel as far as how we vocalize things, I think that's what the city has an issue with. And I think this pandemic time especially is showing that and exploiting that. So we definitely need a better method of reaching youth where they are.
But yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying as regards to having to know where information is, because I know for New York, if a young person were to approach me, I can immediately check my email and refer them to a bed that's available in real time, because I have privy to that information. But if it is that I weren't in the circle that I am, and I'm just a young person who just may not feel safe at home or wherever it is that I am, and I need to go somewhere safe, that information is not readily accessible. And neither are the authorities in New York State even giving like statements of like what the concise plan is going to be or the collective response is going to be. So people are really, young people especially, within runaway homeless youth programs and CSEC programs, are kind of left on a whim and very dependent on, you know, the social spaces that they were in prior, but because of like social distancing and the inability to access those space, and staff not being as, you know, on call or as available as they were before the virus, now you just have like an influx of young people and nowhere for them to go because there's no staff to like work in this space. So that's where it's become like a problem. And, you know, on one hand, while, you know, they do have a duty to show up to their job, if they're not given the proper gears to be able to do so, then you cannot force someone to go outside if the tone of what the news and what we're being told is that it's so unsafe and I'm going to be locked up and penalized if I don't have the necessary gears. So it's quite like a sticky situation, you know. But Dash, do you have an idea of like where young people are going now in Alaska and Anchorage, and like has the operational hours at Covenant House changed or anything of that sort?
Yes, most definitely. So, of course, with the COVID-19, our numbers are definitely at capacity. So we usually have 60 beds over at Covenant House, Alaska. And we've had conversations even like during the time of when everything was starting to get bigger. We've already had conversations of how is the intake process going to look like, so we definitely dropped a lot of barriers in regards to who's able to get a bed in, like, you know, Covenant House, Alaska, as well as the age limit because it's a youth. Covenant House, Alaska is the only youth shelter in Anchorage, Alaska. So the age is from 13 to 20, like before they turn 21. So in specific cases or like a case by case situation, someone who is 21, we're going to have an agreement with that person. You can stay here. We will work with you, but you have to, like, you know, you have to help us help you type of situation. And then our municipality actually has used two of our ice rink spaces, like arenas. They've used that as like a more general shelter for our folks that are older, or like 20, 21, 22 or over. And it's been a good like flow of, there was like a good flow of people. And I think, honestly, I was telling someone, I think this is like the perfect time to actually do the point in time count, but that is just me, because at this point, everybody came out, like, you know, everybody came out and needed, you know, resources, and they needed clothing and everything, like, you know, the basic needs that they need. So the arena has become showers, they were able to get food, they're able to get medical and also like showers over there. So it's been a blessing. And all our other organizations that do housing for specifically our homeless population have came together as a team, and they were outside the parking lot and, like, you know, under tents in the cold, kind of like reaching out to the people like, hey, what's your situation right now? We can get you into a more stable home for the time being, and then work on getting your job and all those other stuff. So for our community, it has definitely been an eye opener and a blessing. And like our rapid rehousing team is able to, like, for the coordinated entry list, instead of like actually going from the most vulnerable down, like, you know, down the list, we can actually pull out the people that are ready to get into housing. And then we ask them, it is a youth choice, youth voice. If they want to, if they have a job and they are ready to get into housing, we can pull them out and make that happen as quickly as possible. So it's been good. Like, community has been great over on my end of the world. So yeah.
The Youth Catalyst team is the national initiative for young leaders who use their knowledge, skills, and personal understanding of systems and services to advance the youth services field. Youth Collaboratory is proud to work with and support this dynamic group of young leaders.